for your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Philip Martin, Johnny. Got your passport ready?
Where to now?
French Riviera, town called Cassis. Just got a death claim from there on a policyholder by the name of Arnold Bernier.
Something wrong with the claim?
Policy's for $75,000. It was written 33 years ago.
Well, so what? Don't you ever expect your policyholders to die?
With fishing spears driven through their backs?
I'll be ready in an hour.
Hi, fellas. Care to join me in a quick look at the past? Okay, here goes. Back around 1890, Charles Dudley Warner, who was editor of the Hartford Courant, wrote in an editorial, "Everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it." Well, maybe no one did in 1890, but someone definitely has since then. Our United States weatherman. He's quite a busy gentleman who works for the Department of Commerce. His job is to read thermometers, barometers, anemometers, and other assorted meters which forecast weather conditions so the rest of us will know what to plan or what not to plan, like hanging out the wash or going to a baseball game. Information about weather conditions is also given to aircraft pilots and ship captains so they can plan their flights or cruises accordingly. Of course, they need more than just weather data, and the Commerce Department gives them what they need. For the pilots, the department issues aviation charts and maps and sees to it that air markers are laid out so that the pilots can find their way easily and safely. For the ship captains, the Commerce Department issues nautical charts and tide tables to indicate when and where it will be safe to navigate their ships. The department also inspects the ships to see that they're in perfect operating condition and issues licenses for the operating of the ships. So the next time you look up at the sky and wonder what kind of a day it's going to be, the thought might also cross your mind that many lives and valuable cargo carried by American planes and ships are depending on the United States weatherman who is also looking at the sky.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Harpooned angler matter. Expense account item 1, $473.25. Airfare, railroad transportation, and incidentals between Hartford and Cassis, France. Expense account item 2, $50 rental of a snappy 1937 Maybach Victoria. After an invigorating journey from the rental agency, marred only by an engine breakdown and a blowout, I arrived at the office of the man who'd sent in the death claim on behalf of Arnold Bernier's widow.
Welcome, my darling Mr. Dollar. Welcome to Cassis.
Well, thank you. Are you Count Andescu?
But of course, dear man. Count Laszlo Andescu at your service. You are here concerning poor dear departed Arnold Bernier.
Yes, that's right.
What a ghastly thing to happen. So unfortunate, so sad. Oh, here one moment and the next, poof. But why should we dwell upon unhappy things? You will give me the insurance check for $75,000 made payable to Magda Bernier. I will give you the receipt and, poof, we will have disposed of everything.
No, not quite. Just what is your position in this picture, Count?
Perfectly simple, darling Dollar. Count Laszlo Andescu renders his most capable services to those who require assistance in delicate matters, financial and otherwise, for a slight consideration, of course. You might call me chargé d'affaires for the bereaved and the unfortunate.
I see.
Yes.
Now, what is this business about a fishing spear?
Oh, yes. So inconsiderate of dear Arnold to come to his end in so sordid a manner. A fishing spear. Ugh. So indelicate of poor Arnold.
Well, at least it's unusual. You mind telling me how it happened?
I thought you knew, my darling Dollar. Dear Arnold was engaged in what has so unfortunately become the sport of the Riviera.
What's that?
Oh, an insanity, my dear man. An incredible insanity which leads one to penetrate the very depths of the ocean, clad only in swimming trunks and a cumbersome, unbecoming helmet of some kind.
Oh, you talking about skin diving?
Well, whatever term one chooses to call it, it is a most incredible, ungentlemanly sport.
Okay, Arnold Bernier was skin diving. Then what?
But, my darling Dollar, it was all so sordid, but so simple. When he had been underwater for over an hour, somebody found him. He was brought up to the surface, and there he was, dead.
With a fishing spear in his back.
Precisely. Now, so, poof, we have disposed of the matter of dear Arnold's passing.
Not if his beneficiary was responsible for having planted that spear.
Oh, my dear Dollar, what a ghastly thing to say. Such a dear, sweet, lovable creature as Marc de Bernier couldn't possibly have been so indiscreet as to have done such a thing.
No, why not?
Well, this simply could not be. Would you think what would happen then to my remuneration for handling this affair?
Yeah.
Poof.
I left the good Count and drove down to the Bernier villa to pay my respects to the widow. Her establishment was located on a bluff overlooking the Gulf de Leon. The scenery was magnificent.
You are looking for me, Monsieur Dollar?
If you're Mrs. Arnold Bernier.
I am. Sit down, please.
Thanks.
A beautiful day, is it not, monsieur? The sun so warm, the soft breeze so gentle and caressing to the skin.
You're a sun worshiper, Mrs. Bernier?
I worship all the things that are most worthwhile in life.
Oh?
Beautiful homes, luxurious furs, the delicate weight of perfectly matched pearls.
You have expensive taste.
Why should I not have?
No reason, if you can afford them.
It only requires money, Monsieur Dollar.
Most people can't dismiss the word so easily.
Most people are not Marc de Bernier. And Arnold was an excellent provider.
I was wondering when you were going to come around to him.
You think I should have mentioned my dead husband sooner?
Sounds reasonable.
But why?
Well, you knew who I was when I arrived. That means Zandescu must have phoned you, so you know why I'm here.
That is quite true.
And you still don't think the subject should have come up sooner?
Why should it? It is of no importance to me.
What is it, your husband's death or my investigation of
Both?
it? Your husband was murdered, Mrs. Bernier. Aren't you interested in determining who did it?
It would not give Arnold back his life.
No, but it could affect yours if you were involved in it in some way.
A rather fantastic conception, Monsieur Dollar. If you must pursue this pointless investigation, I suggest you obtain all your future information from the agent de police Inspector Lanier.
Well, there's one thing I don't think he can tell me.
No? What is that?
How you really felt about your husband. Inspector Lanier proved to be a welcome relief from both Count Laszlo Andescu and the lovely, cold-blooded Marc de Bernier. But he wasn't a great deal more enlightening.
Yes, Monsieur Dollar. Skin diving was a favorite pastime of Monsieur Bernier. He would often indulge in it hours at a time.
He used some kind of aqua lung equipment, Inspector?
A helmet and face mask equipped with compressed air. It enabled him to stay down underwater for approximately an hour at a time. Only this time he did not come up.
Mm-hmm. Who discovered the body?
Monsieur David North,
Who is he?
a young American scientist who is conducting underwater explorations along the Cassis coast. He has a small ship, the Diana, from which he operates, collecting marine specimens.
Uh-huh.
He had reached a depth of some 100 feet and was about to return to the surface when he noticed a small grotto in one side of the bluff. Lying just inside the entrance was the body of Monsieur Bernier.
With a fishing spear through him, huh?
Precisely. So, sometime between 10:30 and noon, someone met Bernier underwater and killed him.
Any idea who it could have been?
At this time of year, the cove is filled with underwater swimmers, indulging in this latest craze of the Riviera.
Yeah. And what about this spear itself?
An ordinary fishing spear discharged from a compressed air tube. Its counterpart may be found in hundreds of hands.
Any personal suspects on your list?
I'm afraid not.
What about Marc de Bernier?
Certainly, there was no financial motivation.
There's a $75,000 insurance policy.
I assure you, that means nothing. Bernier was an immensely wealthy man.
Well, what about business associates?
He had been retired for 20 years. An attorney by the name of Armand Gauthier in Marseille handles his affairs. We have checks. They're in perfect order.
Any personal enemies?
So far as we have been able to ascertain, none.
Well, he obviously had one. Well, thanks for your time, Inspector.
But, I regret only that I could not have been of more immediate assistance. But if there is anything you wish to... Pardon.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Inspector Laniel. Oui, one moment, please. It is for you, Monsieur Dollar.
Oh, thanks. Hello?
You Johnny Dollar, the insurance man?
That's right. Who's this?
My name's David North. I'd like to talk to you.
What about?
The murder of Arnold Bernier.
What do you know about it?
Well, let's save that for our talk.
Okay. Where do we get together?
There's a cafe in town, the Golden Pheasant. I'll meet you there.
How soon?
Oh, about a half hour.
Who told you I'd be here? Andescu or Magda Bernier?
Magda?
Why should she have called you about that?
Well, who else did you expect her to call, Dollar? We're going to be married, aren't we?
There were some half-dozen sailors and roustabouts seated around the Golden Pheasant, but no sign of anyone who might be an American marine scientist by the name of David North. So I took over one of the tables, ordered a cognac to help pass the time, and waited. More than an hour had passed, and North still hadn't turned up. I was about to call it quits when the place was enlivened by a new arrival.
Ah, Dollar! A magnificent coincidence which just... Oh, Antoine? A vermouth cassis. At once, s'il vous plaît. Yes, as I was saying, a simply magnificent coincidence. You do not mind, my darling Dollar, if I join you?
You already have.
So I have, yes. Which makes it all the more charming, does it not? Now so, you are here? I am here. We may now conclude our affair of business.
You're talking about that insurance check?
A trifling matter, I will confess, and somewhat boring. Nevertheless, it does concern money, and I dearly love money. It has so many uses, you know.
What about the little matter of finding out who murdered Arnold Bernier?
Oh, that. Whew, it is of no consequence now, which is why I have sought you out here.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, you presented a problem to me. And what does the magnificent Count Large Landescu do when he is faced with a problem? He solves it. Whew.
You know who killed him?
But of course. Who else could it be but that American David North? Hmm? So, now you will give me the check.
What makes you think it's North?
It is so obvious, my darling Dollar. North has supplied the proof himself by his suicide.
Suicide?
Oh, did I forget to inform you how careless of me? But yes, they're fetching his body up from the bottom of the Gulf even now.
When I got to the beach, about a dozen people were gathered around watching a rowboat heading toward the shore. There were 3 men aboard, dressed in swimming trunks, one of whom I recognized as Inspector Laniel.
Take him to Dr. Geret at once. Use my car. It's fast at the end of the beach. Now, quickly now. There is no time to lose.
What happened, Inspector?
Oh, apparently, Monsieur North decided not to keep his appointment with you. Instead, he went skin diving, and in approximately the same spot off the point where Arnold Bernier was found.
Any idea why?
None. When he had been down approximately 50 minutes, the members of his crew aboard the Diana became concerned. 2 of them went diving for him.
Where did they find him?
In the same little underwater grotto where Arnold Bernier was found. As you saw, he was unconscious. Fortunately, his aqua lung was still working, and so he had not drowned. But there was a bad scalp wound in his head. And this was lying on the grotto floor beside him.
Another fishing spear.
Hey. Obviously, he was attacked in the same manner as Bernier had been.
Any chance that the wound was self-inflicted?
None. And in a way, that is most unfortunate.
Why is that?
If it had been attempted suicide, the case might have been closed. I had just uncovered evidence which could have convinced me that David North had murdered Arnold Bernier.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? In 1770, as one of the leading lawyers in Massachusetts, he defended the British soldiers who fired on civilians during the so-called Boston Massacre. His 4 years as president were perhaps the stormiest in our history, as he fought to keep America out of a war with France. But an official war against France brought George Washington out of retirement as commander of the army and gave birth to the phrase, "Millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute." If you don't have his name by now, here are 2 more clues. During his presidency, Washington became the national capital, and the 11th Amendment was adopted. Who was he? John Adams, 2nd President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
We went back to Inspector Lanyell's office. And while we waited for David North to regain consciousness, Lanyell told me about the new evidence.
It was revealed in a court order, Monsieur Dollar. David North's ship was being attached for non-payment of a debt he owed to Arnold Bernier.
What debt was that?
North had run out of funds in the port of Darien on the Red Sea, where he had been collecting specimens. And Deskew ran into him there, saw an opportunity to make a commission for himself, and persuaded Arnold Bernier to lend North the funds.
How much was involved?
Some $2,000.
That's hardly enough for a man like Bernier to get so excited about.
True. But if you compound the money with North's coming here and then becoming friendly with the lovely Magda...
Oh, you figured a two-way motive then. By murdering Bernier, North saves his ship and gets the girl.
Is it not logical, Monsieur Dollar?
Well, it was before that little accident happened to North.
Oui, but there is no need for us to concern ourselves with idle conjecture. When North recovers consciousness, he can himself inform us.
Well, it might pay to conjecture about one thing meanwhile, Inspector.
What is that, Monsieur?
The whereabouts of Magda Bernier during the past couple of hours.
I had thought we had seen the last of each other, Monsieur Dollar.
Well, it seems that you forgot a couple of pertinent things, including David North.
Why should I have discussed him?
Well, how indifferent can you be about the man you're going to marry?
Did he tell you that?
He did.
David is like a little child who tries to convince himself that the world of his dreams is the true world.
And it's not.
No. David worships me. There is nothing he would not do for me in return for a kind word or a hint of a smile.
Like committing murder?
Yes, I think he would even do that.
And did he?
I do not have the faintest idea.
Then there's nothing to his statement about marriage between you?
Nothing, Monsieur Dollar.
Do you mind telling me where you've been the past couple of hours?
Right here in front of this fire, Monsieur. Why?
You haven't been swimming?
I seldom swim, Monsieur Dollar.
It was getting dark when I left the villa. I thought I'd better find out if North was well enough to tell his side of the story before I closed up shop for the night. Inspector Lanyell was just leaving Dr. Girat's office as I drove up.
Is that you, Monsieur Dollar?
Yeah, that's right, Inspector. Well, did you learn anything from David North?
No, Monsieur, and we never will. He just died.
Well, after that little announcement, there didn't seem to be much reason for me to hang around the town of Cassis that night. So I started out along the coast road toward Marseille. A little way out of town, a gleaming black chauffeur-driven limousine swept by me. Just time for me to catch a glimpse of a blonde head lolling back luxuriously against the rear seat cushions. Then it turned a bend in the road ahead and was gone. There were several intriguing possibilities as to why Magda Bernier would leave her fire and head for Marseille. I proceeded toward my destination in Marseille, the residence of one Armand Gauthier, attorney, the man who'd been in charge of Arnold Bernier's affairs.
Oui?
My name is Dollar, Mr. Gauthier. Insurance investigator. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes.
I am not in the habit of conducting business at my home, Monsieur Dollar. If you care to call my office in the morning, I am certain an appointment can be arranged.
Magda Bernier might be happier if we talked right now.
I do not comprehend your reference, monsieur.
Well, would it help any if I told you that she was number one on the list of suspects in the murders of her husband and David North?
Come in, please.
Thanks.
This way, please. You realize, of course, Monsieur Dollar, that to suspect Madame Bernier of such crimes is sheer nonsense. Won't you sit down?
Thank you. Well, if you want a list of possible motives, we could start with, money?
Oh, ridiculous. Magda stood to gain nothing by the death of Arnold Bernier.
No, why not?
At the time of their marriage, he gave her a tremendous independent fortune. One that even a Magda Bernier could not dissipate in a lifetime. And the balance of his estate is willed to charitable institutions.
Okay, then what about boredom? Hatred?
You have met Madame Bernier? Spoken with her?
Yes.
Then you must realize that a thoroughly hedonistic woman like Magda can never become bored so long as she can surfeit herself with the luxuries of life.
Well, there's still one other possibility. Bernier was some 30 years older than Magda. And David North was a pretty rugged specimen of a young male animal.
He was also stupid. A callow youth, one who might be temporarily amusing to a woman like Magda, yes. But one does not risk giving up a way of life, monsieur, for the sake of temporary amusement.
How true. Well, thanks for your time.
I have convinced you, then?
Well, let's say that I found out what I came here to learn.
Huh? And what is that?
The possibility of another man in Magda's life.
But we have disposed of that, monsieur.
You should have disposed of Magda's perfume, too.
What?
I couldn't miss it when I walked in here. And after your kind cooperation and character analysis, I couldn't be rude enough to accuse you of wearing it.
I do not understand, Monsieur Dollar. Agreed that the desire for money makes an excellent motive for murder. But what is the connection between that and Arnold Bernier's hobby of skin diving?
Inspector, send a diver down to take a closer look at that undersea grotto where he and North were killed, and I think you'll come up with the answer.
Very well, Dollar. I will have it done first thing in the morning.
No, better do it right now.
This should do it nicely, Dollar.
Uh-huh. You sure you want to make the dive yourself?
But why not? I fancy myself rather efficient at the art, and if what you suspect is true, it might be best to keep it between the two of us.
Okay. Is this the lantern you want to use?
Oui. Now, if you will help me with the helmet and the aqua lung.
Oh, sure. Here. There. How's that?
Oh, I'll see. That'll be fine.
I'll take your word for it. Laniel adjusted the rubber flippers on his feet, shrugged the helmet and aqualung more comfortably on his back and shoulders, and then slipped over the side. "45 minutes is a long time to wait in an open boat at night when you know a man is swimming far below the surface in a spot where two other men had met death before him. And I knew it must seem even longer to Inspector Laniel. But finally, he came to the surface. He held on to the gunwale of the boat with one hand and gave me a small wooden box with the other. A watertight wooden box marked marine specimens. I gave him a hand and pulled him into the boat. Then, as he started to take off the helmet, I turned to the box and opened it. The marine specimens consisted of some insignificant-looking brownish weeds. I didn't have a chance to examine them more closely. It was just about then that I turned my head and noticed that the spear gun was pointing at my back.
How charming that we should meet again under such delightful circumstances. Is it not, my darling Dollar?
Where's Laniel?
For the third time, it was necessary for me to leave someone below at the entrance to the grotto. You have no idea how boring this procedure is becoming.
A fishing spear again?
Oh, my darling Dollar, how unimaginative do you believe me to be? Particularly after I only succeeded in wounding dear Mr. North. No. The dear inspector is lying unconscious from a blow to the head. Soon his oxygen will run out, and then, poof. This spear I save for you, here, where I cannot possibly miss.
Oh, please, don't bother.
You know, you are magnificent, my darling Dollar, incomparable. I had not thought it possible for you to connect me with this affair in so short a time.
Yeah, your little drug smuggling act has run into a few obstacles.
What a pity. Such a magnificent plan. Obtaining the hashish for practically nothing in the Red Sea area with Arnold Bernier's money, transporting it here aboard David's ship, concealing it in the grotto to take it ashore when the time was ripe. A magnificent plan.
Only Bernier put a crimp in it.
Yes, and that was indeed a pity. Poor dear Arnold. But he came upon my underwater warehouse.
No remorse about David North.
Ah, how sentimental can one be, my darling Dollar?
I suppose North was diving for one of those boxes to bring me the proof when you take it. Things happened pretty fast just about then. The box hit Andescu in the chest. The spear missed me by slightly less than a hair. My fist hit Andescu's jaw, and he hit the water. Oh, a jolly good time was had by all, including Inspector Laniel. I managed to raise some help from the shore and get a diver down to him before his oxygen ran out. Andescu wound up in the local jail where charges are being preferred against him now. 2 counts of homicide, 2 of attempted homicide, and a slight case of drug smuggling. I didn't see Magda Bernier again. I didn't think I could take any more of that. When you honor the death claim, send the check care of Armand Gauthier, Marseille. Expense account item 3, $27.65, hotel bill and miscellaneous. Item 4, $493, plane fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total $1,043.90. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Sidney Marshall with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Howard Culver, Larry Dobkin, Virginia Gregg, Edgar Barrier, and Lou Krugman. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Harrison, Johnny.
Oh, hiya.
How fast can you get to Beverly Hills, California?
Why?
You've got to find an uncut canary.
Let's take that again, slowly, shall we?
It's a diamond, Johnny. A rough, uncut, orange-yellow diamond they call a canary. Weighs 89 carats, and it's insured by us for $125,000.
Pretty expensive bird.
Yeah, what's more to the point, it took wings sometime last night and hasn't been seen since. How about it, Johnny?
I'll see what I can do.
Right here, I'd like to take a few seconds to talk about dreams. You know, psychologists tell us that dreams are one of the most common forms of escape from the everyday world. But What would you think if you woke up one morning and read in the paper that the president had appointed an elephant to the cabinet? Yes, I agree. That is a ridiculous question. And it doesn't really have anything to do with animals in politics. Actually, it's a question of memory. I was thinking of the Secretary of State when I asked it, and you'll have to agree that with all of the varied and difficult jobs he has to do, the Secretary of State would have to have the memory of an elephant. The Secretary's biggest job, of course, is managing our country's foreign affairs for the President. Since the President can't be in all the foreign countries at the same time, he sends ambassadors and ministers to the various capitals and sets up consular officers in the big commercial centers of the world to assist the Secretary of State. Then, when questions arise, the officials of foreign countries get together with the American ambassadors or ministers or consuls, depending on the country and the type of problem, and they iron out their difficulties. Of course, there are many treaties and international laws which guide these conferences. With their help and the work done by our State Department, we're pretty certain of getting along all right when we tour foreign countries or have business dealings with them. In other words, whenever we have dealings of any sort with countries other than our own, it is the Secretary of State and his department who acts as our intermediary.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity and Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Uncut Canary matter. Expense account item 1, $181.60. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Los Angeles, California. Expense account item 2, $3.75 cab fare from the International Airport to a rich-looking jewelry store in Beverly Hills. Inscribed on the door in what looked like a thin line of pure platinum was the single name, Johannes. According to Harrison, this had been the last known nesting place of the Uncut Canary. Whoever Johanna may have been, I doubted that it was the tall, artistic type with the heavyweight padded shoulders who was looking down his long, aristocratic nose at me.
Yes.
I'd like to see Johanna.
May I ask who you are, sir?
My name is Dollar, insurance investigator.
Oh, you're here about the Minas Gerais Canary, eh?
If that's the full name of the missing diamond, yes.
I believe you'd better come back in the morning, Mr. Dollar.
Any particular reason why?
No, it's been a trying day for Madame Johanna. She's quite fatigued.
Nobody's too tired to spend a few minutes trying to collect $125,000.
In the morning, Mr. Dollar. I'm certain Madame Johanna will be pleased to interview you then.
Maybe I won't be in the mood then.
Oh, really?
It's a possibility.
Well, that's your affair, of course.
No, not the way I see it. Madame Johanna is claiming the loss. She's entitled to her own opportunity to slam the door in my face.
You're quite correct, Mr. Dollar, and I take this opportunity to open it instead.
Madame Johanna, I thought you were resting in your office. I did not wish to have you disturbed.
The next time, Carter, I would thank you not to be so overly zealous in your desire to protect my health at the expense of my bank account. Come this way, please, Mr. Dollar. Want to sit down, Mr. Dollar?
Thanks.
You wish to discuss the Minas Gerais Canary, Mr. Dollar. What is it I can tell you about it?
Well, you might begin by telling me its history.
I purchased it in Rio from a local broker down there a year ago last September.
Over a year ago.
You find something surprising about that?
Well, you've got a pretty large investment in an uncut stone. That's a long time to have it just sitting around, isn't it?
The cutting of a diamond that size is a very delicate matter, Mr. Dollar. Months must be spent studying it, planning the precise manner in which it is to be finally cut and polished. Correct cleavage of such a stone could enhance its value 3 times over. Incorrect cleavage could prove disastrous.
How's that?
Diamonds are capricious. A slight mistake may cause the gem to fly into 100 bits. A bitter lesson my father learned some 25 years ago with a stone similar to the Canary. I do not intend to make the same mistake.
Mm-hmm. When did you first notice the missing?
It was 9:30 last night. Carter and I came down here to watch the cleavage of the stone.
And you were going to have it cut last night?
Yes. We have two of the finest diamond cutters in the world working here. Adolph Spears and Hans Plessman. They have been with me and my father before me for over 30 years.
I see. And when you came down here?
Carter opened the vault. The Canary was gone.
Carter has the combination?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Adolph? Hans? And of course myself.
Was the vault touched in any way? Any attempt made to break into it?
No.
Well, that boils down the number of suspects.
No, Mr. Dollar. It could not possibly be one of my employees. I would be willing to swear to it.
Well, you wouldn't be the first to make a mistake about something like that.
Oh, you do not know these people like I do. Well, you couldn't say that. During all the years, they've... Your pardon, please.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, no. I see. Thank you. I would tell them.
Something wrong?
That was Adolph Spears. He said if I would send the police over to his house immediately, he would give them the uncut Canary.
I put in a call to Chief Anderson of the Beverly Hills Police Force, and a few minutes later, Lieutenant Hankins of his office came by and picked me up. How come you're on this, Hankins? You're still in homicide, aren't you?
Yeah, but the head of robbery's been out with a cold, and with this latest development, the chief sent me out to wrap this up and see you on your way. Disappointed?
You know better than that. Always glad to see you.
Yeah, looks like a quick ending to a long trip, Dollar.
Well, I won't complain.
Why should you? Counting traveling time, you'll get 2 full days' pay for a few minutes' work. Not bad.
You jealous?
Not me. You insurance boys can have it.
Rather work on the force, huh?
Maybe it doesn't pay as well, but I know I can figure on a check every 2 weeks. Hang on, we turn here. Well, what's your trouble making that turn? Cutting back at an angle that way, it's not too easy to figure. Now, that's Johanna. There's a woman who'd wring the sweat out of a man. Always got an eye out for a fast buck. I don't think she's going to be too happy to get that uncut Canary back.
Why is that?
Well, the rumor around town is that it can't be cut.
Flaws in it?
Oh, the stone's clear enough, but some of them are just shaped wrong. Can't be split clean. The stone's liable to break in the dust if you try to cleave it.
Do you think that's what's wrong with the uncut Canary?
She's had it hanging around her shop for over a year and a half. Bought it at a price way under the market. There's got to be some reason for it.
Uh-huh. How much you figure the stone would be worth if it could split?
Maybe $250,000, give or take a little. Be easier to sell that way, too. This way, her money's tied up in it, and they say she's tight for cash.
Who isn't?
I don't know what you mean. Well, that's her worry, not ours. Here's Adolph Beer's house. Let's go in and get it. What do you think, darling?
Doesn't seem too anxious to turn it over now.
Door's locked. No lights inside.
Let's try the back.
All right.
Hear that?
Sounds like a car motor running somewhere.
In the garage, maybe.
There's the garage, Dollar. Lights on inside. The door's closed.
Come on. It's no easy job to wrestle some 200 pounds of dead weight out from behind the wheel of a car in a monoxide-filled garage. But Hankins and I finally managed it. Over here. In the grass.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Adolf Beers?
Yeah. It's a cinch he won't tell us where that Uncut Canary is now.
Yeah, it's a cinch he couldn't have told Johanna only 15 minutes ago, either. While Lieutenant Hankins waited for the homicide boys to arrive, I walked down to the corner drugstore and tried to make some phone calls. I was phenomenally unsuccessful. There was no answer at the jewelry store, at Johanna's home, or at the bachelor apartment of the obnoxious Mr. Carter. Expense account item 3, $1.75. Cab fare from the corner drugstore to the residence of Johanna's other diamond cutter, Hans Plessman.
Well, what is it? What is it?
Are you Hans Plessman?
Of course I am, of course. And you must be from Albert. Let me have it at once. At once. Do you hear?
I think you've made some kind of a mistake, Mr. Plessman. My name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
I'm not interested in your name, young man. I just want the lenses I ordered from Albert for my refractometer. The lenses for my... Insurance investigator. Is that what you said, insurance?
That's right, Mr. Plessman. I want to ask you a few questions.
Questions? Questions? What kind of questions?
About the Minas Gerais Canary.
What did you want to know about it? Insurance investigator, eh? What do you want to know about it?
Could we talk about it inside?
Inside? Oh, yes, inside. Of course. Come in.
Thanks.
Told the police all I know about it. Why are you coming around bothering me? Why don't you question Adolf? Yes, question Adolf.
You think he had something to do with it?
Didn't say that. Just ask you why you didn't question him.
Adolf Beers is dead, Mr. Plessman.
Dead? Adolf dead?
That's right.
Well. Adolf dead.
He might have been murdered.
Murder? Adolf murdered? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Maybe somebody wanted to get the canary from him.
Nobody could have murdered poor Adolf for that. He didn't steal the canary. Didn't steal it.
What makes you so sure, Mr. Plessman?
Because I stole it, that's why. Murdering poor Adolf when I stole the Uncut Canary.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? During the Black Hawk War in 1832, he volunteered for service and was made captain of his company. As a member of Congress in 1847, he was opposed to the Mexican War. He also opposed the Kansas-Nebraska bill, which favored the extension of slavery. During this time, he was offered the governorship of the Oregon Territory, but refused it. Over 6 feet tall and not particularly good-looking, he was known for his droll sense of humor. If you don't have his name by now, here's an important clue. His unexpected acceptance of an invitation to attend the dedication of a soldier cemetery was responsible for one of the greatest speeches in our history. Who was he? Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
That's absolutely lovely dress. Oh, well, thank you. Brilliant.
Good old Harry. What a host. When Harry throws a party, nobody goes thirsty. Here, let me freshen up that drink. Good old Harry is such a great host. How come Bill and Jean had such a terrible fight?
I want to go home right now.
Why not? It's a great fight.
I don't care.
Such a drink.
No, I want to go home right now. Now,
How come Bob had a little trouble driving home? And how come everybody who felt so good last night feels so bad this morning? Maybe good old Harry is not such a great host after all. Maybe good old Harry is a pusher, a neighborhood pusher. Harry pushes alcohol. So if you serve alcohol, please, don't be a pusher. And if you're a guest, don't let good old Harry or anyone else push you into drinking more than you want. A public service message from this station and the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
After his astounding statement about stealing the Uncut Canary, the heretofore voluble Hans Plessman closed up completely. He refused to say anything about anything. And 2.5 hours later, at the Beverly Hills police station, the situation was unchanged.
Unless Plessman talks or we dig up something else, we won't be able to hold him long.
I don't think he's the only one who's clamming up about that canary.
Johanna?
I'd like to know who really called her on the phone when she sent us up to Adolf Beer's house.
We'll find out when we locate her. She's not at her home or at the office, though.
No sign of the stone at Beer's?
Nothing. A couple of the boys still going through the place. They started Plessman's, too. Hankins? Okay, Doc, thanks. Autopsy surgeon, they're posting Beers now. Looks like homicide, all right. Heavy blows struck on the back of his head. Doc's offering 8 to 5. There'll be no monoxide in the bloodstream.
Well, I won't cover that.
You going somewhere?
Yeah, the evening's still young. I might as well try to earn some of that big money. You think I'm getting paid for this job? Expense account item 4, $2.25. Cab fare from Beverly Hills to the apartment of Johanna's assistant, Mr. Charles Carter.
Come in. Door's open.
Stripped down to a pair of shorts, Carter was standing on his head at one end of the room, heels resting lightly against the wall.
Oh, it's you, Dollar.
What's the idea of that?
What?
The headstand.
Tones up the system, reverses the blood flow, good tonic for rejuvenating muscular tissue, strengthening the internal organs.
You don't say.
You should try it sometime. Most beneficial.
Amazing.
What do you want here, Dollar?
What? Oh, well, I was just wondering where you were earlier this evening after you left the shop.
Down at the beach. Exercise there for an hour every evening. Why?
Adolf Beers is dead.
Oh, not surprised.
Oh?
Overweight, disgusting, poorly cared for body. Can't abuse the machinery of life, Dollar. It'll refuse to function.
In this case, the refusal wasn't voluntary.
Oh, so that's why you wanted to know where I was. Huh? Well, now you know.
Mm-hmm. Johanna wasn't with you, was she?
No, haven't any idea where she... Oh, now you're going too far, Dollar.
Oh, why?
Johanna's the epitome of all womanhood, a gentle, delicate soul. I'll not have her maligned by you or anyone else. Is that clear?
Oh, sure. But I'd still like to know where she was. Now, tell me, Carter, how often do you do that headstand stunt?
Twice a day.
And how long do you keep it up each time?
30 full minutes.
Remarkable. I hit a drugstore and tried to call Johanna's residence, but there was no answer. A call to Lieutenant Hankins brought the information that Plessman was still refusing to talk, and that they'd finished searching both his house and that of Adolf Beers. The Uncut Canary was still among the missing. I was drinking a cup of coffee at the fountain when I suddenly remembered something Hans Plessman had said. I grabbed the yellow phone book and started looking for an optical lens manufacturer whose name was Albert. I found one. Albert Schoenbeck. Both an office and a residence phone were listed. At that hour of the morning, the choice wasn't too tough to make.
Yeah, Meneer Dora. I have been making optical lenses for Johanna Vanderwood for many years now. And for her father before her. But to call at this hour of the night with such a question...
And did you ever make lenses for a refractometer, Mr. Schoenbeck?
Yeah, for Hans it was.
Hans Plessman?
Of course, Hans Plessman.
Would you mind telling me what a refractometer is used for?
You are asking me questions about this, or you do not even know for what it is used?
It's important, Mr. Schoenbeck.
Yeah, for whom important? For you or for Johanna?
Both of us.
So. All right, then I will tell you. It is for measuring the bend of light through a precious stone. With mirrors, lenses on the scale, this machine measures the stone's index of refraction and tells exactly what the stone is. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think I get the general idea, yeah. Could you use one to determine the proper cleavage of a diamond?
For cleavage, you ask?
Yeah. Would it help any?
I have never what? Yeah, it is possible, I presume. If there were some interior floor, some imperfect strata of crystalline structure, that could possibly show up, yeah. But why do you ask? What does all this have to do with Johanna?
I'm not quite sure. Thanks, Mr. Schoenbeck. Expense account item 5, $3.60. Cab fare to 621 West Canyon Road Drive. That's somewhere near the top of the Santa Monica Mountains, about 2.5 miles from Sunset Boulevard.
I'd just come in and was preparing for bed when you rang, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, so I noticed.
Then if you would please tell me quickly why you have come visiting at this late hour.
It's about the rumors.
Rumors?
Yeah, I understand that Jeweler's Row believes that Johannes is heading for the financial rocks.
You came up here tonight to discuss with me the financial status of my business, Mr. Dollar?
Not exactly.
Well, then.
But suppose the rumors were true, and you're hard up for cash with $125,000 tied up in an uncut diamond that can't be sold until it's cut, and can't be cut because it'll fly into bits.
That is utter nonsense.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Why?
It removes any motive you may have had for stealing the uncut Canary yourself.
I think I'd better leave now, Mr. Dollar.
You haven't denied it.
You've gone too far for that.
Adolf Beers must have gone pretty far, too.
The reference is beyond me.
Beyond Adolf now, too. Or maybe you haven't asked yourself why somebody wanted to murder him.
Adolf? Murdered?
You didn't know?
How could I have?
Just wondering.
Adolf murdered. But why?
Well, I'd say either Adolf took the stone and somebody got it away from him, or he knew who did steal it and was going to talk. Either way, the result's the same.
Unbelievable.
Not quite as unbelievable as your statement that you talked to him on the phone when actually he'd been dead for 2 hours.
Now it is time for you to leave, Mr. Dollar.
No further explanation?
None.
Okay. Oh, by the way, did you know Hans Plessman had confessed to stealing the Canary?
I did.
I suppose you think that's unbelievable, too.
My attorney is arranging his release on a writ of habeas corpus at this very moment.
Oh, that's very interesting. You sure you don't want to change your story about that supposed phone call from Adolf Beers?
I do not.
I didn't think so. The lack of transportation from Canyon Road Drive back to Beverly Hills didn't bother me. The walk would give me a chance to clarify my ideas about the Uncut Canary matter. It took me a little less than an hour to get back to Sunset Boulevard and an all-night gas station where I called Lieutenant Hankins.
Yeah, that's right, Dollar. Hans Plessman was sprung about 45 minutes ago.
You put a tail on him?
Yeah, he went straight home.
Expense account item 6, $1.65, cab fare again. It took about 15 minutes to get to Hans Plessman's house.
Yes, who is it? Who is it?
Hello, Mr. Plessman.
Oh, it's you, that insurance man. What do you want now?
Have you cut it yet, Mr. Plessman?
It was just about when you interrupted me.
Do you mind if I watch you finish the job?
That's all. Come in.
Thanks.
In here, right in here.
Well, looks like you've got a pretty capable assistant, Hans.
Yes, I think our partnership in diamond cutting will prove quite successful.
Of course it will, of course. The refractometer will make the difference. Told out of that, but he wouldn't listen. Was going ahead in his own stubborn way. He would have smashed the stone, just as he did 20 years ago.
So Adolf Beers was the cutter who smashed your father's stone, huh, Johanna?
Yes, that is quite right, Mr. Dollar.
Ruined him and killed him. Couldn't let that happen to my little Johanna, like my own daughter, you know. Couldn't let Adolf do that to her, too. Couldn't.
So you took the diamond to keep Adolf from cutting it.
It was my fault, Mr. Dollar. I wouldn't have listened to Hans's warnings. I was going to let Adolf go ahead with it.
wouldn't listen to me, who was like her own father. So I had to take the stone. I was going to cut it myself, Johanna, and give it back to you as a gift.
I know you were, Hans.
Only Adolf saw me getting ready. He was going to stop me, so he could cut the diamond himself. He shouldn't have done that. Adolf shouldn't have done that. I had to stop him. Well, we have work to do. Put the stone on the cut, Johanna. That's it. That's it. Now, hold the steel blade right on the incline. That's it. That's it. Now, hold it firmly, but without pressure. Not too much pressure. So.
Thank you, Hans. You've done it.
Of course. Of course. But it had to be done my way. Only the refractometer showed the proper place. That stubborn fool Adolf would have ground it into bits. Well, I guess everything is all right now for you. Hey, Johanna? I will save your business, all right? And you, young man, no trouble about the stone now, is there? No trouble?
No, Hans. There's no trouble about the stone.
You understand how I couldn't let anything happen to my Johanna. Not to my little baby. Oh, his stone. Beautiful. Once I have him cut and polished, the stone...
Hans, what is it? Don't you feel well?
Oh. It's all right, Johanna. I'm a little weak and shaky, that's all. I can't understand it. Weak, shaky like this. Ridiculous. I think I'll lie down for a bit.
Mr. Dollar?
Sure. Go ahead.
I can't understand it. Weak, shaky.
Mr. Dollar, now you know.
Yeah. So it was Hans and not Adolf who called you on the phone.
Yes. He told me that he had hidden the stone in my house. But not that he had killed Adolf. I brought the stone to him tonight after his release from jail. And there they are. What was once the name Mr. Uncut Canary. A gift, Hans said. They'll accomplish everything he wanted to accomplish for me. And I'd rather I'd smashed the stone into dust before this all began. I didn't want this gift from Hans.
Expense account item 7, $179.25, airfare and incidentals from Beverly Hills, California, back to Hartford. Expense account total, $373.85. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Sidney Marshall with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were William Johnstone, John Stevenson, Hal March, Virginia Gregg, and Fritz Feld. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Charles Lyon inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when from Hollywood, John Lund again transcribes his expense account as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, has been a presentation of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Did I wake you up, Dollar?
Oh, how could you? It's only 4 in the morning.
Sorry, this is Ted Albright. I'm Eastern Indemnity's new branch manager in Chicago.
Congratulations and good night.
Oh, wait a minute, Dollar. I need you out here right away. It's about Frank Harvey.
One of your claim adjusters?
Then you do know him.
I worked on a lot of cases with him, yeah.
Well, you won't work on any more. He's been murdered.
I'll take the first plane out.
Mind if I cut in to say something, fellows? It won't take too long, since a word to the wise is sufficient. And in the English language, there is one word which is important to just about everyone in the world. That word is security. Security has several different meanings, however. Usually, we think of it in connection with the protecting of our military installations and defense industries. But it means more than that. There is a security which applies to every man, woman, and child in America. The security which comes from being in good health, having a good education, and being well taken care of in case things get a little too tough to handle by oneself. This kind of security is the problem of the President's newest cabinet member, the Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. This department ties together the work of several governmental agencies. First, there is the United States Public Health Service, which strives to make certain that the general health of the people in our country is in the best of condition. Then there is the Food and Drug Administration, which guarantees that the food we eat is pure and safe to eat. The Social Security Board, which takes care of old people, children, and the blind who need assistance, also comes under the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, as does the United States Office of Education. This office does research on the educational possibilities, changes, and opportunities, and passes on its information to the various state boards of education. As you can see, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare is one of the most important agencies in our government, assuring us, as it does, of a normal and healthy way of life.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Eastern Indemnity and Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the classified killer matter. Expense account item 1, $71.30. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Chicago. I was greeted at the airport by Ted Albright and one of Chicago's winter blizzards.
Sorry about this lousy weather, Dollar. It'll slow us up plenty.
Oh, no hurry. It'll give you time to fill me in on Frank Harvey.
Well, I can tell you everything I know in about a half a minute. I wasn't even in town when it happened. The wife and I were visiting her folks in Milwaukee. The police traced me there at 2 this morning.
What did they tell you?
All lousy drivers think they own the whole road.
Yeah, what did the police tell you?
Well, Frank was apparently at the office until 6:45 last night. That's when the night elevator man signed him out in his book. He left the office alone. About an hour later, a truck driver found his body half buried in a snowdrift out on Manheim Road near the Northwest City limits. He'd been shot 3 times at close range. And that's all I know.
Well, not very much, is it?
Watch what you're doing. All the stupid morons. Everybody thinks he can drive a car.
You're kind of on edge, aren't you?
Well, who wouldn't be? This thing happening to Harvey, driving back to Chicago in the middle of the night, no sleep. Oh, I'm sorry, Dollar. I guess it all piled up on me. I suppose you want to go right to our offices here.
No, I'll check with the police first. You want to drop me off?
Sure.
By the time we got down to 11th and State, the snowplows were out in full force. I went up to Homicide, where I met Lieutenant Franchetti.
A blizzard like this always cuts down the crime incidence rate, fella. Homicide particularly. There'll be a rise in deaths from natural causes and Yakky-Dack, but not much for our department.
Yakky-Dack?
Yeah. Anti-freeze. Favorite cold weather drink of the bums on West Madison. They drain it from the radiators of parked cars. It's pretty lethal. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, thanks.
So you want to know what we got on Frank Harvey, do you?
That's the general idea.
Well, we picked up a little more dope since we talked to Albright. Looks like Harvey was murdered while trying to sell his car.
How do you figure that?
And he'd been running a classified ad in one of the evening papers for the last couple of nights. Here's a copy of it.
Thanks. For sale, 53 Cadillac convertible, perfect condition, all accessories reasonable. How does this tie in?
Well, according to one of the mechanics in the garage where Harvey kept his car, he met a prospective buyer there last night. He heard him discussing the car, and then Harvey and the man got in and drove off. That was about 5 to 7.
The mechanic give you a description?
Yeah, pretty detailed one. Didn't catch his name, though. Ziegler's checking over the mug books right now.
That's the mechanic's name?
Yeah, Will Ziegler. So far, he's drawn a blank. Anyway, at 8:37 last night, we clocked in a call from a truck driver phoning from a pay station out on Manheim Road. He'd found Harvey in a snowbank.
He was shot to death, huh?
Yeah, 3 bullet wounds, 2 slugs still in him. 3rd one's missing. .38 caliber. The land and groove marks are clean enough to identify the gun if we ever find it.
What about the car?
It's missing. Put out an APB with a description of the man and the general pickup on the car. No luck so far.
Well, how do you see it, Lieutenant?
Well, my guess is somebody figured out a cheap way to get himself a good automobile. Well, that's it, Dollar. Looks pretty routine from here on in. Nothing much you can do to help.
No, maybe not, Lieutenant, but I'd like to stick around.
Well, sure. Nothing else you can cover. Oh, excuse me. Lieutenant Franchetti. Yes, Sergeant. Oh, good. The address again? No. Yeah, I got it. Thanks. Oh, would you like to take a ride, Dollar?
Where to?
Mannheim Road. I just found Harvey's car.
It took us some 45 skidding minutes to make our way through the storm out to a beer and hamburger joint on Mannheim Road. A precinct car and a handful of reporters were already there when we arrived. A detective sergeant filled us in on the background.
The owner of this place came out about an hour ago to open up, Lieutenant. He saw the car parked out there in the parking lot and phoned in.
Uh-huh.
It's Frank Harvey's car, all right.
Been out here a long time, all that snow piled on it.
Yeah. No doubt about where Harvey got shot. Not with all those bloodstains on the seat.
Uh-huh. You sure that mechanic said it was a man Harvey drove off with last night?
Does something give you a different idea?
There's a woman's compact back here on the floor. Expense account item 2, $3.80. Cab fare back to your offices in downtown Chicago. We got nowhere talking to the beer joint owner, and there weren't any more physical clues in the car to tell us anything. But I figured maybe Ted Albright could.
Just doesn't make sense, Dollar.
Why not?
Well, you said the garage mechanic saw Frank drive away with a man. How'd a woman get into the picture?
Well, I thought maybe you could help us with that.
Me? How?
Well, you were Frank's boss. You must have got to know him pretty well.
Well, sure. But what's that got to do with this woman?
Well, did he have any girlfriends? Anybody in particular that he went around with?
Oh, no, not that I know of. I'm sure he didn't.
A young, single guy making a good salary, driving a 53 Cadillac convertible, and he didn't have any girlfriend?
Well, I didn't mean it that way. Sure he did, but there wasn't anybody in particular I knew of. No women involved in any recent adjustments either.
Oh, you've been going through Harvey's claim files, huh?
Yeah, I thought it might be a good idea. Didn't come up with anything, though.
What about life insurance?
Yeah, I talked to him about that. All he was carrying was 10,000 GI. Mother was the beneficiary. No motive there. Yeah, looks like the police were right, and somebody was just trying to get himself a car, Chief. Will you get it, Dollar?
Yeah, sure. Hello.
Is this the insurance company where that fellow worked who was killed?
That's right. Who's this?
Well, what I want to know is, you guys willing to pay something for finding the guy who done it?
Do you know something about it?
I know plenty, mister. Yeah, plenty. But I ain't telling nothing without getting paid for it. Not that I don't believe every patriotic citizen should ought to do his duty. But if there's a few bucks lying around, well, a fella's got to make a living these days, you know.
Yeah, sure. Suppose we get together and talk it over.
Well, no, I wouldn't want to do that, mister, unless I was pretty sure of making a deal. Well, not that I ain't on the side of law and order, you understand. But it ain't too easy for a guy to get along these days, what with the high cost of living and all.
If you have information, you've got a deal. Now, where do we get together?
Well, it ain't that I want to chisel you for anything, mister. Always willing to do my duty as a honest citizen.
Yeah. Where do we get together?
Well, now, my name's Taggart. Spell it with 2 G's. I'm the room clerk at the Biloxi Hotel.
Where's that?
Well, it's at Wells and Grand. Now, I ain't trying to chisel or anything, mister. It's just that I...
Be right there. Expense account item 3, $1.25. Cab fare to the Biloxi Hotel. Expense account item 4, $20. To help the room clerk, Martin Taggart, combat the high cost of living. 2 principal items of which were obviously garlic and bourbon.
That's her name right there. Wrote on the register. Miss Alma Carter, she calls herself.
She checked in here around 9:30 last night.
That's right. All kind of scared and frightened looking. Noticed some stains on her coat, too. Looked like blood to me. Oh, not that it's any of my business. I just give them their rooms and collect their money. That's all I'm paid for.
All right, let's have the rest of it, Taggart.
Well, when she come out here in the lobby every couple of hours or so to listen to the news broadcast on the radio there, and when she wanted me to go out and buy the papers for her 3 or 4 times, well, I started wondering about things.
Very shrewd.
Yeah. Well, when I heard the news about that woman's compact being found in the car, that kind of clinched things. I figured then I'd better put through a call to you.
She's in room 14?
That's right, room 14. You'll find it right straight down
Thanks.
Yes, who's there?
Miss Carter, I'd like to talk to you.
Who are you?
My name is Dollar, insurance investigator.
Insurance and... All right, come on.
Thanks.
Now, what's this all about, Mr. Dollar? Knocking on a perfect stranger's room, saying you have to talk with me.
Let's get one thing straight first. You're wrong about our being strangers.
Wrong. I've never seen you before.
No, but I've seen you. Or at least your picture.
My picture?
Yeah. On the desk of the Chicago manager for Eastern Indemnity.
On the desk of...
That's right. Mrs. Albright.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He was president longer than anyone else. Probably no other president since Lincoln had as many friends and enemies. During his administration, many beneficial measures became law, such as unemployment compensation and Social Security. During a serious banking crisis, he reassured the people by declaring, "All we have to fear is fear itself." When he was 63, a brain hemorrhage put an end to one of the most controversial administrations in our history. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more clue. He was the first to broadcast the so-called fireside chat. Who was he? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 32nd President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Under the proper circumstances, Mrs. Ted Albright could have been a very attractive woman. Under the circumstances in which I met her, she didn't come even close to making the grade.
So you know who I am. You know I'm Ted's wife.
You were with Frank Harvey last night
Yes,
when he was killed?
yes.
What happened, Mrs. Albright?
Can I have a cigarette, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thanks. I ran out a couple of hours ago. Didn't help my nerves any.
Yeah.
Thank you, that helps.
All right, what happened, Mrs. Albright?
Well, Frank was going to give a prospect a ride in the car last night. He asked me if I'd mind going along.
Pretty friendly with Frank, were you?
We were good friends.
Your husband know that you had this date with him?
No, Ted thought I was visiting my folks in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Frank picked me up at the main entrance of the insurance building about 7.
This other man was in the car?
Yes, the front seat next to Frank. I got in and sat between him and the door.
Did Frank introduce you?
He mentioned the man's name, yes, but it was in kind of a mumble. I didn't get it.
Okay. What happened then?
Well, the man asked Frank if he'd mind driving out to his house so he could have his wife look at the car. He didn't give the exact address, just told Frank to drive up Mannheim Road.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
We were driving along a lonely stretch of road when the man told Frank to pull over to the side and stop. He had a gun in his hand. Frank asked him what the big idea was. And the man laughed in a kind of crazy way. Pulled the trigger.
What happened then?
Everything was kind of a blur after that. I think I screamed. tried to get out of the car. I know I fell to the ground. And I got to my feet and started running.
Did the man chase you?
I don't know. I just kept on running, and when I saw that old shack down the road, I ran behind it and hid. I think I fainted then. Sometime later, I got a lift from a passing motorist. He took me into town, and I came here.
You've been here ever since?
Yes.
Why didn't you call the police when you got into town?
Don't you realize what happened? I was out with a man who wasn't my husband. Involved in a murder. I couldn't tell anyone. It was my only chance to avoid being involved in a scandal. Can't you understand that?
No, I can't. And I don't think Frank Harvey could either. After Mrs. Albright told her story to Lieutenant Franchetti and a police stenographer, she was booked and held as a material witness. Then Franchetti sent out a pickup for Ted Albright.
Well, looks like it's boiling down, Dollar. Jealous husband hires a gun to knock off his wife's boyfriend. It's a classic pattern.
Yeah, maybe. What about that garage mechanic?
Ziegler?
Yeah. He have any luck with the mugbooks?
Yeah. Came up with 3 that he said looked pretty close, all ex-cons, long records. We're running them down now.
How does Mrs. Albright's description of the killer fit?
Not too close. I showed her the mugs, and she said no. But then she would.
Why?
Well, once we get the guy, he'll put the finger on her husband. That'll be a stinking mess.
Well, it's not exactly reminiscent of a rose right now. It looked like routine police procedure from then on in, so one of Franchetti's men drove me to the Palmer house, and I checked into my room. I was looking forward to a hot shower, but I didn't quite make it. Johnny Dollar.
This is Albright, Dollar. I've got to talk to you.
Where are you?
Down in the lobby.
Come on up. Come in.
Where's Alma, Dollar? Have the police got her?
Yeah, material witness.
Dear God in heaven.
They got a pickup out for you, too.
For me? Well, why should... Hey, wait a minute. Did the police think that I killed Frank Harvey?
Or hired someone to do it.
But that's incredible. It's insane.
You knew Alma was seeing Frank, didn't you?
Well, I suspected it, yes. I wasn't sure,
You were pretty sure she was out with Frank last night. That's why you went up to Milwaukee, to check on her story about going to visit her parents there.
Yes, I did. But I didn't get there until almost 10 o'clock, and that's the first I really knew she wasn't there. Don't you see, Dollar? That's my alibi.
The police won't think so.
I don't care what the police think. It's Alma I'm worried about down there in some stinking, rotten cell. There's got to be some way of getting this mess straightened out.
I know what the first step is.
What's that?
You're going to turn yourself in. Expense account item 5, $2.25. Cab fare from the Palmer house to police headquarters at 11th and State, where I dropped off Albright in care of Lieutenant Franchetti, and then went out to the garage where Frank Harvey had kept his car. I found the man I wanted in a paint booth at the rear of the second floor. Ziegler? Your name's Ziegler?
What did you say, Mac?
I'm looking for Will Ziegler. Is that you?
Yeah, that's right, Mac. What can I do for you?
My name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
Yeah, that's so.
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Oh, hey, I get it, Mac. Insurance investigator. Yeah, that guy Harvey, he was in the same racket, wasn't he? You know, the guy who got killed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was rough. Guy getting himself bumped off that way, real rough. I was standing right there when he and the joker who done it drove off, you know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, sure, Mac. Be glad to tell you what I can, but I already gave that lieutenant, what's his name? Franchetti?
Yeah.
Yeah, I already gave him all the dough. I picked out 2 or 3 guys from that Rose Gallery book that looked like the Joker I seen.
Had you ever seen that man down here before?
I couldn't swear it, Mac. I don't think I ever seen a guy before, no.
What about Ted Albright?
Who?
Ted Albright. He was Harvey's boss. Ever see him down here?
Albright. Albright, Well, the name don't mean anything, Mac. Could be he's a customer here, but I never run across him.
Okay, let's get back to this man who drove off with Harvey.
Huh?
Did you notice anything strange about him? Anything different? Peculiar?
No, that's the trouble. Like I told that lieutenant, you never can tell about them kind of jokers.
What kind?
You know, them psychos. Like that guy is.
Oh, you figure he's a psycho?
Oh, sure, has to be. I got it all figured out.
Yeah? How's that, Zeke?
Look, here's a guy, sees an ad in the paper. Car for sale. So he figures he'll meet the guy who run the ad, drive out on some lonely stretch of road, bump him off, and make away with the car. Just don't make sense.
Why not?
Any guy who's in the hot car business don't go through all that trouble. And letting people see him besides. He picks out some nice-looking jalopy parked on the street, picks a lock, jumps the ignition, and whoop, he's off. Clean. Get what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Sure, but this guy don't do it that way. He puts himself in a spot where I can see him. And even worse, when Harvey picks up that dame in front of that insurance building, he don't back out of the deal. He bumps Harvey off with one perfectly good witness sitting right there beside him. The guy has to be a psycho.
Seems to make sense.
Sure. I got it all figured. Hey, look, when that lieutenant, what's his name?
Franchetti.
Yeah, Franchetti. When he picks up them three guys I put the finger on, all he's got to do is find out which one's the psycho. That'll be the guy he's after. But look, I got to get back on the job, Mac. Guy wants it by 5 this afternoon. I hope I helped you out, Mac. Let me know if you get that guy, huh?
Yeah. I'll let you know. Expense account item 6, $1.85. Cab fare back to police headquarters, where I had a talk with Alma Albright.
Tell me Ted's been arrested, Mr. Dollar.
That's right.
Why'd you have to do that to him? He didn't have anything to do with it.
I'm not too interested right now in what happens to you or Ted.
No, I don't blame you.
That man who killed Frank, do you have any idea what kind of work he did?
Work?
Yes. Did he say anything about what he did, who he was, or where he lived?
No, nothing. All he and Frank talked about was the car.
Was there anything peculiar about his hands or his clothes or anything like that?
No, nothing. Wait a minute, his clothes.
Yeah, what about him?
There was a kind of a faint, sweet odor I noticed, like...
Nail polish remover, maybe?
Yes, that's it, nail polish remover. How did you know? Does that have anything to do with Frank's death?
I'm not sure. Expense account item 7, $1.85. Cab fare back to the garage. Ziegler had finished the paint job and had punched out for the day. Expense account item 8, $2.95. Cab fare to a rooming house out on the west side of town.
Hey. Hi, Mac. Come on in. Come in.
Thanks.
Well, what brings you out this way, Mac? Something turn up about that joker who bumped your insurance friend?
I wanted to talk to you about that theory of yours.
Theory? Oh, you mean about the guy being a psycho?
Yeah. I think you've got something there.
Oh, yeah, sure I have. It figures. Say, look, I was just getting some clothes together to take down to the cleaners. You mind if I go ahead with it while we talk?
No, go right ahead.
Thanks. Hey, about that psycho routine, yeah. That's the only thing that makes sense about the whole business. You know, him knocking off your girl, your friend with the girl in the car and all.
I thought of another angle about the girl, Ziegler. He might have had some plans about her, too.
Hey, that's right. Never thought of that. It ties in, though. Yeah, no telling what a psycho will do where a pretty girl's concerned, huh? How do you like this jacket, Mac? Some class, huh? Set me back a C note.
You kind of go for classy clothes, don't you, Ziegler?
Oh, yeah, I like 'em fine.
Big cars, too, huh?
Oh, you ain't just woofing, Mac. Nothing gives a guy class like sharp clothes and a real fine car.
What did you think of Frank Harvey's job?
That? Mac, that was the end. A real dreamboat. Car like that, clothes like these. I could really have the dame standing in line waiting for him, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You always take that many clothes to the cleaners at one time?
Oh, yeah. You gotta take good care of rags like this, you know. Should be cleaned after every time you wear them.
Did they have any trouble removing the acetone odor from them?
Acetone?
Yeah. The solvent you use in your auto paint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that stuff really cleans.
That's what Mrs. Albright said.
That right? Who's she?
The girl you and Frank Harvey picked up in front of the insurance building last night?
Oh. Yeah. She, noticed it, huh?
That's what she said.
Oh, nice-looking babe, that Mrs. Albright. Real nice.
Just the kind to fit in with classy clothes and a dreamboat car like Harvey's,
Oh,
huh?
man, you're saying it. A doll like that, a car like that, a guy'd really be sitting on top of the world, huh?
Yeah.
How'd you know, Mike? That acetone stuff tip you, huh?
It helped.
Mm-hmm.
Your crack at the garage about picking up the girl was the real tip.
Yeah, that's right. I shouldn't have known about that, should I? How do you like that? Always did shoot off my mouth too much.
Well, you want to ride in with me or wait till the cops get out here?
Might as well ride in with you, Mac. I'll get my coat and hat, huh?
Don't try it, Ziegler.
Okay, Mac. I quit. I always get excited at the wrong time. Like I did with Harvey. Oh, that was too bad.
Killing him?
No. Doing it in the car that way. Spoiled that great upholstery. Couldn't even use the job after that. That was a mistake.
Expense account item 9, $17.50. Food and hotel bill. Expense account item 10, $68.40. Plane fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $191.15. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
King, Johnny. Consolidated Indemnity.
Oh, hello, Mr. King.
Got to do this for us, Johnny. I can't take no for an answer.
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. King. Do what?
It's a new model car Allied Motors have been testing. Completely under wraps. The top engineers have been working on it.
Your company going into the automobile business?
We're in it, Johnny, up to our eyes. The car's cracked up 3 times, 1 fatal injury. The auto company's as confused as we are. You got to run out there and find out what the story is, Johnny.
Okay, Mr. King. I'll keep you posted.
Mind if I break in a few seconds to discuss games with you? How many of you, when you were youngsters, ever tried to escape from the world of reality by playing cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers? Today's youngsters have added 2 more professions to the world of make-believe: spacemen and G-men. And speaking of G-men, do you know where that name came from? Actually, it was used about 20 years ago by gangsters to describe members of our Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the name stuck. It's easy to see why youngsters have added G-men as heroes to their play world, since they are a most important part of our country's protective forces. Actually, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is part of the Department of Justice and acts as a kind of detective agency whose duty it is to track down those who break our federal laws. The FBI also does counterintelligence work in ferreting out spies and saboteurs. And here's an amazing fact about our FBI men. Despite the extreme dangers of their work, it wasn't until some 20 years ago that they were given the authority to carry guns. With no other weapons than courage, resourcefulness, and determination, they had to track down and apprehend dangerous racketeers and spies. Today, however, you will find that the typical FBI agent may be a lawyer, accountant, or specialist in some other profession, but thoroughly trained in scientific police methods and handy with any type of weapon.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Consolidated Indemnity Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the road test matter. Expense account items 1, 2, and 3. Taxi to airport, $3.50. Plane ticket to Detroit, $84.75. Taxi to Allied Motors testing grounds, $4.15. I got there before noon. There were a lot of signs around the place reading absolutely no visitors and keep out, no trespassing. So it took me about 10 minutes to persuade the guard at the gate to let me through. They were still testing cars, but the people watching the test winced as the cars thundered by, just as if they expected the autos to fall apart any second. The man I wanted to see was named McGregor. He was pointed out to me by one of the mechanics.
Well, it's the time of that last lap then,
Mr. McGregor?
Very same.
I'm Johnny Dollar from the insurance company.
Insurance company? What have they got to do with us?
Well, they carry the paper. I'm only here to help you, Mr. McGregor.
Of course. Sorry you thought me cut, Mr. Dollar. We've been having a time around here.
Yeah, I've heard.
You have? Well, come along to the pits. I'll show you what's what. This is the company's model 3 years hence we're testing.
Oh, you worked that far ahead?
Aye. We're planning a radically redesigned automobile. It's a big gamble.
And you're in charge of the whole thing, huh?
I'm to make it work. That's been my job here for 25 years. I've seen a lot of changes, Mr. Dollar, but never anything like this. New materials, new suspension, new steering.
Mm-hmm. What about these accidents?
You tell me. 3 so far. And we've got the best engineers in the world. You expect 1 failure, 2 maybe, but 3. A fiasco like this can cost the company dear.
It's been kept pretty quiet.
Aye, but for how long? It can ruin the company. Well, come on in. I'll show you the baby the men are driving.
Well, there she was. Allied's experimental model. If they'd been taking orders, I'd have signed then and there. Until I remembered that 3 of these dream boats, each hand-tooled and serviced by the best men the company could find and driven by crack drivers, had fallen apart on the track. The drivers? Well, the orders were to give the car every beating it could take. And the drivers knew this car couldn't take it. McGregor led me into his office on the field.
Sit down, please.
Thanks.
What do you make of it, Mr. Dollar?
Well, it might be an inside job, of course. Someone's got a grudge against someone else, and they're working it out through the car.
So, we strip down every wreck. I do it myself personally. And do you think there's a sign of sabotage? No. No, it's not that easy, Mr. Dollar.
One of the drivers, maybe.
Oh, they've all been with the company for years. Maybe some of the designers. They're new boys. But our drivers, they're very experienced.
I'm not talking about their experience. I'm talking about their motives.
I'm an automobile engineer, and I wouldn't know about motives. I'll have to leave that to you.
Thanks. Oh, I'd like the name of the man who was killed and his widow's address.
Oh, of course. I'll write it down for you.
Expense account item 4, 85 cents. Taxi to the residence of Mrs. Grace Johnson. She lived in a nice house not far from the track. A for sale sign was posted on the lawn.
We should have called first, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got in
The
town.
place is a mess.
You're going somewhere?
Well, you know how it is. After a horrible thing like this, you want to get away. Throw that stuff off the chair and sit down.
Don't bother being polite to me, Mrs. Johnson. I'm just doing my job.
You have to make it sound so clinical.
Well, maybe that's the best way, Mrs. Johnson.
I'll try to help you.
Thanks. Who do you think might have wanted your husband killed?
You think someone did?
You knew your husband. Is there anybody who might have wanted him out of the way?
Yes, but I can't be sure.
I'm not asking you to be sure. I'm just looking for leads.
Steve and I, that's my husband, hadn't been getting along. Seems we couldn't live with each other or without each other. I didn't know where to turn.
These things happen, Mrs. Johnson.
I turned to a friend of Steve's. One thing led to another, and pretty soon, well, we were thinking that if only Steve was out of the way. But I didn't think he would do it. I didn't.
You know that he did?
Of course not. He hasn't been to see me once since. I'm getting out of this place. It's like a bad dream.
What's your friend's name?
It's Simmons. Joe Simmons.
What does he do?
Do? He used to be a test driver with Allied, same as Steve was.
Hmm. May I use your phone?
Yes, of course. I'll show you where it is.
Simmons had worked for Allied, all right. One of their best men. He'd quit after the Johnson accident. When I went to the address he'd given as his home, I found he hadn't lived there for 6 weeks. But his landlady said he liked to stop in at Kirby's Bar and Grill down the street. And she believed he still lived in the neighborhood.
Yes, sir?
I'm looking for Joe Simmons.
You come to the right place. Joe, you got a friend. That's him over there.
Thanks. Mr. Simmons?
Yep.
I'm Johnny Dollar. I'm with the insurance company interested in the Allied Motors business.
A cop?
No, we're just the people who pay off the claims. They've asked me to look into it.
Why do you come to me?
I thought you could help me.
Kelly, 2 more. You'll join me, won't you?
Yeah, I'll play with it.
Coming up. How much do you know?
Well, I know Steve Johnson had a pretty wife.
Oh, you've been seeing her. And she told you how she cried on my shoulder. I suppose she also told you I let her on or something? Put him on my tab, Kelly. Right, Joe. I'm a little tin god, Dollar, but Steve was my friend. If I took his wife to the movies or out to dinner, he knew about it, even though she didn't know he knew.
That sounds complicated.
Well, he was crazy about her. He was trying to keep it going. He thought I could straighten her out.
How come you quit driving?
Well, that car's not right. I've been test riding too long not to know that.
Allied makes the best cars in the business.
You're telling me? This one handles like a bar of soap. It does everything but answer your mail. Then suddenly, wham! For no reason, it falls apart on you. You tell me a car like that's all right?
Every car or just some of them?
How would I know?
Well, maybe some of the cars could have little bugs put in them. Like if one driver was in the way.
I get you. You still think I did it because I was going out with Grace?
Yeah, something like that.
There's only one thing wrong with your hunch, Dollar. I'd have to get to the car. They watch them like crown jewels.
You could figure out a way.
And I'd have to want to do it. I told you I wasn't double-crossing Steve. He knew I was seeing Grace.
Do you know you and his wife were thinking how nice it would be if he were out of the way? I'll leave the tip. And, Mr. Simmons, I wouldn't leave town with the widow just yet. Expense account item 5, $2.60. Cab fare to my hotel, where I put in a call to Mr. McGregor. He wasn't available, but they promised me he'd call me back. I left word with the desk to be sure and page me, and I went down to the dining room where I told the head waiter I was expecting a call. I hadn't got around to my coffee when I was paged and told that someone was waiting for me in the lobby.
Dollar?
Yeah.
Sergeant Ferris, Police Department. I hear you're digging into the Allied crack-ups.
Our company's paying for them.
Got any ideas?
No, nothing startling. Open and shut.
Let's get off our feet. I was hoping an outsider would turn up a fresh approach.
Oh, I like the old one, Sergeant. It's neater.
Show me how.
Well, you'll have to bear with me if it sounds familiar. Husband and wife fight. Husband's best friend has a broad shoulder and a narrow conscience. Problem? How to get rid of husband and maybe pick up a piece of insurance on the way. All that remains, Sergeant, is to figure what was done to wreck husband's car and how friend tried to get away with it.
Well, it's neat. I'll say that for your theory. But it won't work.
Why not? It's worked before.
I'll give you one small reason. Joe Simmons doesn't work for Allied any longer, right?
Right.
And they just had another crack up out there.
Ouch.
What happens now?
Oh, I've made my little spiel. You tell me.
Here's a rich company with all the know-how and talent in the world. And they can't make a car safer than that. Something's got to be wrong.
Well, that's not a conclusion, Sergeant. That's a beginning.
I'm coming to that. The police department hasn't got enough to go on, so I kind of figure it's your baby.
Meaning what?
Hang on. The insurance company's got to find some evidence of at least criminal negligence before we get interested. Officially, that is. We want you to go to work out there.
Work?
Driving.
Driving? But they're cracking up, aren't
And
they?
if you're lucky, one will crack up with you in it. Then we'll know something.
If I live through it, that is.
We want you to do that for us, Dollar. It's important. Will you?
The things I get involved in. All right.
Good luck, Johnny.
Yeah.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He never wanted to be president, since he personally felt he was unqualified for the office. When he was only 30 years old, he was appointed member of the Ohio Superior Court. He was President Grant's Secretary of War and Attorney General. In 1908, through the recommendation and support of Theodore Roosevelt, he succeeded Roosevelt as president. If you don't have his name by now, here's another clue. During his administration, the Postal Savings Plan and Parcel Post were established. Who was he? William Howard Taft, 27th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
All right, Jim. Throttle her full. All right, Jim. Get it! Get it! Come on. All right, everybody. Back to work. Back to work. Have her towed to the shop and take her down.
Couldn't we just smell it for scrap and save the trouble?
Come on.
What made it go to pieces, Mr. McGregor?
Ask the engineer who designed it.
I got a better idea.
And what's that?
Put me to work, driving. There are some things you can't learn at second hand.
Oh, you're kidding, of course.
No, Mr. McGregor, I'm not.
Very well. You got a minute, Dollar?
Do I get the driving job or
I've
not?
got something in my office. It ought to give you an idea or two. After you. Care for a wee drop of the stuff? Not elegant, but paper cups will serve. There you are. Cheers. Never used to drink on the job, but believe me, since they put this new model on me, it's a necessity.
What about my job, Mr. McGregor?
I don't think you'll be needed.
Why not?
Come here. Here's something I dictated. For the top brass. You'll see why. It's on the dictating machine now. Yeah. Here it is.
Memo to Mr. William T. Taun, Chairman of the Board, Allied Motors. From Ken McGregor, Head Department Development and Research. Subject, new model.
It begins with a lot of personal stuff. You know, how I've been with the company for so many years, that kind of thing. And here's where it really starts, I think.
And it is my considered opinion that the projected design ought to be dropped entirely. Further test driving ended in the interest of the company's reputation and my men's safety. Furthermore, if I may suggest, we ought to return to the traditional ways of developing our cars, which have stood us so well.
Well, that's it, Mr. Dollar.
And what if they don't approve?
They've got to.
And if they don't, do I get the job?
Surely. But they've got to, Dollar. They're not crazy.
They'd read the memo in the executive offices by the time I got to them. They were inclined to agree with McGregor, and it took some fast talking on my part to convince them they should keep the experimental models testing. The insurance company had a lot of money invested in those accidents, if they were accidents, and I didn't see folding up my tent and stealing into the night without some explanation.
They gave the test 1 week more. Meanwhile, I went to see the man responsible for the car's design.
Come in, please.
I'm Johnny Dollar from the insurance company. Is your chief, Ted Brand, in?
I'm Ted Brand.
Then I'm supposed to talk to you?
Sure. What do you say we do it over something to drink?
Yeah. When he said something to drink, he meant coffee. He was no more than 22 or 3. And that's what threw me when he told me he was the man responsible for the radically redesigned car of the future.
So there you are, new car from top to bottom. Science can't stand still, neither can automotive design. They had lots of trouble with the first jets, remember?
Well, then you think it's, birth pangs?
Did I say that? No, Mr. Dollar. That motor, that car is as perfect as anything can be. On paper, it should handle like a dream, and it can. I know it can. Oh, you'll find a lot of old guys who are against anything just because it isn't the way it always was. These are the same guys who are opposed to pneumatic tires, then four-wheel brakes. They just hate progress. You follow me?
Yeah, I think I do.
This car has got to work, that's all. Just like 2 and 2's got to make 4. How about another cup of coffee?
No, thanks. You have a cup on me. I've got somewhere to go. Expense account item 6. Taxi to the residence of Mr. Kenneth McGregor, $1.60. I waited till well after dinner before dropping in.
Yes?
My name is Dollar. Is Mr. McGregor in?
No.
Well, do you expect him soon?
Well, if he's not here by this time, I can figure he won't be home at all. Can I help you? I'm Mrs. McGregor.
Well, I don't...
They're working him awfully hard at the plant these days. He's been staying there nights a lot recently.
Oh? Maybe I can talk to you.
Won't you come in? I'm so glad for the company, Mr. Dollar. With Mr. McGregor away so much, I tell you, I just pine for someone to talk to. Can I fix you a cup of coffee?
No, thanks. Nice place you have here.
Thank you. We like it. The company's been very good to Ken. He's been with them a long time, you know.
I guess he must like his work.
Oh, he loves it. They wanted him to retire several times, but not Ken. Offered him a pension, too. But I guess they realize he knows more about cars than anyone in the whole world, I do believe.
He seems to work hard, staying away so late, missing dinner.
Oh, he wasn't always like that. He works hard, but he's also a family man, do you know what I mean? But lately, he's had so much on his mind. The way I see it, he wants to make one more showing before he does quit.
Yes, I see what you mean. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go.
Oh, do you have to? I was enjoying our talk so much.
So was I. Oh, Mrs. McGregor, I wonder if I could ask something of you.
Of course.
Don't tell Mr. McGregor about this visit. I mean, it's nothing to worry about, but...
I understand, young man. In years past, before they pushed him aside, lots of you boys used to come out and see us. I won't say a word.
Thanks a lot. Good night.
Good night.
And there it was. A man who'd given a lifetime of loyalty. And now he was drinking on the job, staying at the shop all night, hating the new model car. I wondered how I'd feel if I suddenly found myself outdated. Outdated by a kid full of new, fresh, crazy ideas. Then I remembered that a man named Steve Johnson had died, that they'd had 4 crack-ups and might have others. Johnny Dollar.
Sergeant Ferris, Johnny. Can you come out to Allied? It's important.
What's happened, Sergeant? Another crack-up?
Worse. Murder.
Murder? Who?
McGregor.
Excuse us, please. Let us through.
There it is. Just the way it was found this morning.
Seems to have been quite a struggle.
It does for sure.
He spent the night here.
How do you know?
I went out to his house last night. He's been staying away a good deal. I guess he was pretty sore at what he thought the company was doing to him.
So he went and got himself killed?
He got me there, Sergeant. Did he go out for dinner or anything last night?
The guard at the gate said he left around midnight. Was back in an hour.
Did he make any calls?
Switchboard's closed at that hour. He had a direct line.
That's all you know, then?
Someone came to see him.
Oh?
No, hold your horses. It was early in the evening. He left hours before it happened. They check everybody in and out through the gate.
Uh-huh. I get it.
There's some guy who used to work for him or something. The man at the gate knows him.
Who was it?
Simmons. Joe Simmons. He was checked out before 10, like I told you.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave you to your work, Sergeant. I went to Kirby's Bar and Grill, but Joe Simmons wasn't around. He'd been around last night, but they hadn't seen him today. Well, there wasn't much I could do. It was a police case now, all right. So I grabbed a cab and went back to the hotel. Expense account item 7, cab fares, $120, $260, and $140. I was just letting myself into my room when...
Are you Dollar?
That's right.
Can I come in? I want to talk to you. It's about the car they're road testing over at Allied.
Yeah. Come on in.
Thanks. Maybe I'm a stoolie, but... Oh, murder's not in my line.
What are you talking about?
This guy who got killed, that driver, Johnson. It was a risk he had to figure on, but now killing the old man, I'm through. I had nothing to do with it. I'll take my rap for what's coming to me, but not murder.
Why don't you go to the police?
Well, I figured you could help me.
Well, don't count on it. All right, go ahead. Tell me who you're talking about.
Simmons.
Simmons was checked out of the test area 2 hours before it happened.
That's what you think. McGregor picked him up later and brought him back. He was crouched down on the floor in back of the car.
Why?
Well, they were worried about you. You were going to drive. That meant that you'd have to get the business like Johnson. Simmons had to talk the old man into it.
They were working together?
Simmons was working for a stockholder who got booted out of the management when it was discovered he'd been mixed up in rackets. He wanted to hurt the company, and he had what it takes to do it. Well, Simmons knew the old man was sore because the company was scrapping him after all these years. Well, little by little, he got the old man to go in deeper. But then they had this beef about you. The old man realized what he'd done, and he wouldn't go for it. Well, you know how it wound up.
Where's Simmons now?
Waiting for me at the Kearns Hotel.
Will you take me there?
Yeah, sure.
Wait till I call a friend and tell him where to meet us.
They got a gun?
Yeah, a service revolver.
All right. Go on in.
Okay. I'm back, Joe.
What took you so long? Did you get the tickets?
You're not going to need any tickets.
Wait,
Expense account total, including return fare, $217.40. Remarks: the name of the stockholder has been submitted above, and he is currently held by the police. It is my belief he'll be able to reimburse your company for all the claims you've paid out. From jail, of course. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by David Chandler with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Fred Mackay, Bill Johnstone, Virginia Gregg, Ted Bliss, Clayton Post, Hy Everback, Eleanor Audley, and Joe Kearns. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
Tom Benson, Johnny. Feel like traveling?
Not particularly. Why?
About 6 months ago, we wrote 2 policies. A man and his wife, Harrison and Maida Langley. Double indemnity. $125,000 each.
You got a death claim already?
No, but we're liable to. Got a letter from the underwriter. Says Langley claims somebody's trying to murder both him and his wife.
Where do I go?
Sundown Rubber Plantation, Kuala Lumpur, Federated States of Malaya.
Well, I should have my passport around here somewhere. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund and another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Friends, the makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum present these weekly adventures of Johnny Dollar because they know that millions of you enjoy Johnny Dollar. That's true of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, too. It's enjoyed by millions, day in and day out. People find that chewing on a smooth, delicious piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum somehow makes time pass more pleasantly. Whether you're working, driving, shopping, or just taking things easy, that good, tasty chewing gives you enjoyment and satisfaction. So always keep a package of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. And whenever you want a refreshing, delicious treat, chew a stick. You'll like it. You really will. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the terrified Taun matter. Expense account item 1, $1,043.50. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Kuala Lumpur. I checked into the Coliseum Hotel and then walked over to Batu Road and the offices of George Allister, the rubber and tin broker who doubles in brass as your Malayan representative.
Oh, filthy climate, Dollar, filthy. No man in full possession of his God-given senses would ever live out here. I don't understand why you came.
Well, you wrote about the possible forthcoming murder of some policyholders, Allister.
Oh, yes, the Harrison Langley business. Utter rot, this talk about murder. Dismal obsession of disordered mentality. I wrote that letter only in the line of duty.
You don't think there's anything to it?
Oh, beastly nonsense. Jungle's breaking Langley down. He's a weakling to start with, no moral fiber. Turn that fan up a bit, huh? Yes, fellas disintegrating under the strain of trying to run that rubber plantation.
Then there haven't been any attempts to kill Langley or his wife?
No, sheer delusion. Concepts of a diseased mind. Checked with the police. No reports made. No, Jungle's got him. That and the filthy terrorists.
His plantation's in terrorist country?
Sundown some 45 miles north of here. Everything north of Kuala's in terrorist domain. Filthy blighters. Ambushing traffic. Attacking villages, plantations. Murdering, burning, slashing rubber trees. No man's in his right mind would live in this filthy country.
Yeah. How do I get out there?
I hire an armored car. Only way to travel through the jungle. Take your own chances, though. Might be blown up by landmines. I won't take any responsibility.
I'm not asking you to.
Oh, you make your investigation if you have to, Dollar. Won't get you anywhere. Utter waste of time. Then go back home to the States, out of this filthy climate, beastly country.
Uh-huh. If you hate this country so much, Allister, why do you stick around?
Good question. Asked myself that many times. Always came up with the same answer.
What's that?
Making too much money.
Well, that sounds reasonable. Expense account item 2, $120. Rental of a 1949 Ford, completely equipped with armor plating and bulletproof glass. The jungle trip was hot, but fairly uneventful.
And only the barbed wire enclosure and the armed Malayan guards at the entrance to the sundown plantation gave evidence that this was anything but a quiet, peaceful land.
Good afternoon, Tuan. May I have your identification, please?
Yeah, sure. Here it is.
Tuan Dollar. You are here to speak with Tuan Langley?
That's the general idea, yeah.
I think perhaps it would be wise for you to speak with Tuan Crawford first.
Crawford? Who's he?
He is the plantation overseer, Tuan.
Why should I talk to him instead of Langley?
Tuan Langley is not well at the moment. He is still suffering from the shock.
What shock is that?
His wife, Tuan. She has disappeared.
Well, in that case, if you don't mind, I think I'll see Mr. Langley. Through the screen door, I could see part of the interior of Langley's house. There wasn't a sign of anyone around, but it looked cool and inviting in there. Too good a bet to pass up.
You take one more step into this house and I'll kill you.
Wow. Thanks for the warning.
I mean it. Every word of it. You're not going to murder me the way you did Maida. No, not a bit of it. You didn't expect me to be waiting here ready for you when you came sneaking in, did you? No, I'll bet you didn't.
You win on all counts, Langley. Now, suppose you put that thing down and let's start talking sense.
Not a move, I said. I know your kind. Sneaky, tricky. Try to get me off balance.
Look, my name's Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator. Washingtonian Life sent me out.
You're lying. George Alistair told me they wouldn't do anything about it. Wouldn't send a man halfway around the world to help me. He was right.
I've got my identification here to prove it.
You have identification?
How do you think I got past those guards at the gate? Here. Take a look for yourself.
What are you...
Thanks. 38 caliber Webley, isn't it?
All right, go ahead. Use it.
I think I'd rather have a drink first.
Over there, the liquor cabinet.
Thanks. You might take a good look at those papers while I'm mixing one.
But these papers say you're Johnny Dollar, an insurance investigator working for... Why, I'm sorry, Dollar. Dreadfully sorry. Please accept my apologies.
Forget it. Now, suppose you tell me what this is all about.
Oh, it's been a nightmare, Dollar. Constant threats against my life. Terrorist raids. Living in fear 24 hours a day. Sleeping with a gun at my side. Seeing this plantation ruined before my very eyes. And helpless to stop it. It's no wonder I'm not responsible for my actions.
Langley, it's not your plantation I'm interested in right now. It's your wife.
Maida?
Well, she's disappeared, hasn't she?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course she has. Good Lord, man. What do you think's got me all upset this way?
I was beginning to wonder. Well, let's start with your wife and go on from there. What makes you think that she's been murdered?
What's the trouble here, Mr. Langley? Trouble? One of the yard men told me you heard a shot fired.
There was, accidentally.
Guns don't go off around here without a reason, mister. There's nothing to get excited about, Crawford. Mr. Dollar's an insurance investigator. Insurance investigator? So the vultures are gathering for the feast before the body's even cold. That's enough, Crawford. Nobody's asking you for your opinion. I don't need to be asked about something like this. If Mrs. Langley was my wife, I wouldn't be wasting my time talking to insurance men. Then let me remind you that Mrs. Langley is not your wife. Even though I'm certain that two of you wish she were. Why, you dirty little...
Okay, Crawford, hold it. If you've got anything to say, suppose you tell it to me.
Yes. That's a good idea, Crawford. Instead of my saying anything, why don't you tell Mr. Dollar all you know about the disappearance of my wife? That might help clarify things in a hurry. Okay. I'll be outside in the Jeep, Mr. Dollar. I'll take you on a personally conducted tour. That way you'll be sure of getting the truth from once. Well, there's part of your answer.
Yeah? How's that?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Crawford's in love with my wife. They've been carrying on behind my back for months. If anyone has a
motive for trying to kill me. It's Crawford.
Yeah, or it could be the other way around.
That's been going on for 3 or 4 months now, Mr. Dollar. This crazy idea Mr. Langley has that somebody's trying to murder him and his wife.
What makes you think somebody isn't?
Hey, he says he gets threatening notes and telephone calls. Only nobody else has ever seen them or heard him talking to anyone.
Uh-huh. Now, what about Mrs. Langley?
Oh, he was driving her nuts. Walking around afraid of his shadow. Carrying a gun every place he went. Spying on her and me. Trying to find out if something was going on between us.
Was there?
If you knew Mrs. Langley, you wouldn't even think of asking that question.
But I don't. And I'm still trying to find out what happened to her.
Well, I'll show you. Hey, you see where the barbed wire's been cut? Those young rubber saplings have been slashed?
A terrorist raid?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
Well, what's this got to do with Mrs. Langley?
The guard who met you at the gate, Bandar. He found the fence and trees that way, making his rounds this morning. He also found a sleeve torn from one of Mrs. Langley's blouses. It was covered with blood. And no one has seen Mrs. Langley since last night.
You figure the terrorist took her with him?
I think Mr. Langley staged the whole thing to make it look like that.
Yeah? Why?
He's in debt. The 50,000-pound note on the plantation's coming due in 60 days. His wife's insurance would cover that nicely.
Well, it's an interesting theory. Let's go back, huh? Where's Mr. Langley, Bandar?
He has left for Kuala Lumpur, sir, some 10 minutes ago.
Why? Did he say?
Oh, no, sir. I only know that Taun Langley received a telephone call, and then he left.
Did he leave any message for me?
I do not know if it was a message, sir, but he made some strange comment concerning yourself.
Oh? What was it?
He was rather excited. I did not get all the words, but it was something about giving you something to really investigate.
And that was all?
Yes, sir, that was all. Then he took a .45 caliber automatic from the gun rack and left.
Where's the phone, Bandar?
Yes, that's right, Dollar. I did speak with Langley a few minutes ago. Nothing important. Just a routine business question about a shipment of rubber.
You're sure that's all it was, Alistair?
Well, of course, ma'am. What's the matter, Dollar? Is filthy heat getting you down, too?
Did either of you say anything about Mrs. Langley?
Maida? Yes, she was mentioned casually.
Casually? And he didn't tell you that she's disappeared, possibly been murdered?
You being serious, Dollar?
Did he tell you anything about it?
No, not a word. Matter of fact, I was the only one who mentioned Maida. Perfectly casual reference, as I told you.
Well, what did you say, Alistair?
Merely that I just finished having a drink with her at the Coliseum bar.
Friends, here's a suggestion that'll help you go through a busy day feeling more relaxed and satisfied. From time to time, especially when you're feeling tense or under pressure, chew a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. You see, chewing is a natural way to get rid of some of that pent-up tension. Chewing on a good, smooth piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum not only helps you feel more relaxed, but also gives you taste enjoyment. There's lots of refreshing, delicious flavor in Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. You'll really enjoy it. So do what millions do. Always keep Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy and chew some every day. You'll feel more relaxed, and you'll get more enjoyment out of the things you do. Next time you're at the store, get a few packages of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I managed to get back to Kuala Lumpur in about half the time it had taken me to get to the plantation. George Allister was still grumbling about the climate, the country, and being involved in the Langley affair.
Oh, confound it, Dollar. I told you Langley was disintegrating, but I didn't think he'd ever take a gun and go hunting his wife to kill her.
Has he tried to get in touch with you?
No.
But he knows you saw Mrs. Langley at the Coliseum bar.
Why, yes, I told him that on the phone.
Did she say anything about a raid at the plantation? About an attempt to kill her there?
Oh, not a word. Claimed she was in town on a 2-day shopping trip. Seemed cheerful and happy.
And she's staying at some hotel, huh?
Mm-hmm. Room 22 at the Crown House. Small, reasonable rates. She usually stays there when she's in town.
Mm-hmm. Well, you better call the police and brief them while I'm on the way over. The sooner Langley's picked up, the better.
Yes, of course.
Oh, by the way, Alistair, you wouldn't happen to know who holds that 50,000-pound note against Langley's plantation, would you?
Why, yes. I own the note. Why?
Just curious. There wasn't any sign of the Koala police in the Crown House lobby, so I went right up to Mrs. Langley's room on the second floor. Whatever preconceived ideas I might have had concerning what Maida Langley would be like didn't even come close.
So you're an insurance man, Mr. Dollar. That outfit of yours must have a hole in its head, sending you all the way to Koala because of those crazy ideas of Harry's.
You don't think there's anything to him, Mrs. Langley?
But nothing. The lad got himself into a lather with that crummy plantation that's riding his back. Been working too hard, that's all.
You think that's all there is to it? Overwork?
What else? All he needs is a good long vacation away from that stinking plantation.
What went on out there this morning?
What do you mean?
Well, you were at the plantation when the terrorists made that raid, weren't you?
Oh, that, sure. I'm getting so I don't pay any attention to those things anymore. They're happening all the time.
Where were you when it took place?
My room, packing for this trip to town. Why?
Well, both your husband and Crawford have the idea that somebody staged that raid in order to kill you.
Kill me?
They both said you disappeared right after it.
Well, sure I did. I drove to town.
Anybody see you leave?
Bandar was at the gate. He let me out. And Harry knew I was coming here.
Your husband knew that?
Sure, Harry's going to join me here. This place has got a kind of, well, you might call it sentimental feeling for us.
Oh, yeah? How's that, Mrs. Langley?
I was staying here when I first met Harry. Lots of show people stay here.
Oh, you were in show business?
Oh, couldn't you tell? Sure. I was traveling around the Orient with a girly show. Nothing big time, you understand, but it was a living. Funny how those things turn out. Never figured I'd wind up someday being the wife of a rich plantation owner.
Must have been quite a change.
Oh, I know what you're thinking. Just another chorus cutie on the make who managed to snag herself a gold mine.
I didn't say that.
Well, don't. I happen to love that guy of mine. When he meets me here, I'm going to make him take me to Singapore for a month. Just the two of us. A real vacation. And then he'll forget all this crazy business about people wanting to kill him and me. Everything will be okay then. When we get back, we'll go...
Get down!
What was...
Get down!
Mr. Dollar?
Yeah. You didn't get started on that vacation soon enough. The shots had come from the rear of another hotel, just across the alleyway from the Crown House. When I got over there, I found just about what I'd expected. A room filled with babbling tenants, the smell of burnt cordite, and an excited room clerk.
Yes, Taun. It was the gentleman who rented this room. He had registered here 30 minutes ago. I do not understand why he's not here now.
Happen to remember his name?
Oh, yes, Taun. I take great pride in my work here. I remember the names of all the hotel guests.
Well, I'm only interested in one, the man who rented this room.
Oh, yes, I remember quite distinctly. He registered here under the name of Harrison Langley.
I went back to Maida's room to get her out of there and under police protection. I could have saved myself the trip. She was gone. I spent the next 3 hours going round and round with the Koala police. Eventually, they decided they'd try to pick up Langley and see what they could do about protecting Maida. Expense account item 3, $10 for a double scotch on the rocks and a half-eaten dish of mame at the Coliseum bar. I don't think the bill would have run that high, but when I saw the face in the crowded bund outside the window,
I didn't feel like waiting for change. Still looking for her, Langley?
What? Oh, it's you, Dollar.
Still looking for Maida?
Then you knew I came here to Koala to kill her.
That's the general impression I received, yeah.
It's a terrible thing. What a scheming woman can do to a man, Dollar. Terrible thing.
You want to tell me about it first, or do we go straight to the police?
Doesn't really matter now, does it?
Probably not.
There's a little garden across the square. I used to meet Maida there. Do you mind if we talk about it there?
Sounds like as good a place as any.
I don't know, Dollar. Maybe it's because I'm a weakling. Maybe it's because when a man marries late in life, as I did, it hits him harder when he learns that his wife no longer loves him.
You still think that's the real story?
I know it is. She and Crawford.
That's not the way she tells it, Langley.
I should have known better. A cheap dance hall tramp. She only married me for my money.
And you're convinced Maida and Crawford intended to murder you?
Oh, no. Don't underestimate my sweet, darling wife, Dollar. She didn't want me killed. Then Crawford could force her into marrying him. No. All she wanted was to have me adjudged mentally incompetent. Then she'd have control of my money and no strings attached. That's why she was so brazen about her affair with Crawford. Why they tried to break me down with all those threats against my life, fake those terrorist raids against the plantation. To make me crack, break down under the strain, commit some unreasoning act of violence. Well, they almost succeeded. I came here to Koala today to kill Maida, to get rid of her once and for all. I couldn't see any other way out. No other answer for me.
Murder's never an answer for anything, Langley.
I'm not sure. I spent the whole afternoon walking the streets, thinking about it, trying to bring some semblance of sanity back into my life. I don't know, Dollar. Maybe I shouldn't have changed my mind. Maybe if I'd gone to that hotel and killed her. I don't know.
You still have the gun with you?
Yes. Yeah. Here it is.
Thanks. Well, the magazine's full. Gun doesn't look as though it's been fired.
Why should it? I told you I changed my mind about killing her, didn't I?
Yeah. So you did. I asked Langley to wait in the garden and went across to the Coliseum Hotel, where I made 3 quick phone calls. The first was to the Koala police. They told me the slugs they dug out of the wall in Maida's hotel room were .38 caliber. The second call was to the Sundown Plantation.
Yes, sir. That is correct. Juan Langley's wife left the plantation early yesterday morning.
And why did you tell me she disappeared?
It was at her request, sir. She said to tell everyone that. She was planning some surprise for Juan Langley.
Uh-huh. What about Crawford? Is he around?
No, sir. He left for Kuala Lumpur shortly after you did.
Did he say when he was coming back?
Yes, sir. He said he would return by midnight tonight.
Uh-huh. He had a gun with him, of course.
Yes, sir. He not only took his, but also Juan Langley's .38 caliber Webley.
The third call was to the room clerk of the hotel where the shots had been fired. His memory was still good concerning the man who'd registered as Harrison Langley. 6 feet tall, brown hair, heavy set, about 30. It was a perfect description of Crawford. I drove back to the garden in my armored Ford, picked up Langley, and we headed out on the jungle road leading back to the Sundown Place. Sure, I'd get the proof I needed when we got there. But I was wrong. I got it when we were still 15 miles away.
Bullet.
Must have been a landmine.
Oh, if some poor devil ran over it in his car.
Well, we'll find out.
it is, Dollar. An armored car. Blown clear off the road.
Yeah.
Lord. Yeah. Oh. Dollar, is there any?
Not a prayer for either one.
The gun he's wearing. It's my Webley.
I know. He used it this afternoon. Looks like I was the target and not Maida.
So, she died out here like this. Instead. Cheap chorus girl. All she wanted was money. So she married for it. But that wasn't enough. She had to scheme and connive to break me down, destroy me. So it could be all hers, alone. Well, she didn't succeed, Dollar. And I'm well rid of her. She deserved to die like this by violence. Just another dead animal in the jungle.
Mr. Langley, let's...
Cheap, no good tramp. That's all she was. Believe me, I'm well rid of her. Well rid of her. She deserved to die like this. Nothing but a cheap, gold-digging... Maida, darling, Maida.
Expense account item 4, $39.70. Hotel bill and incidentals in Kuala Lumpur. Expense account item 5, $1,083.25. Airfare and incidentals from Kuala Lumpur back to Hartford. Expense account total, $2,296.45. Remarks? Sorry I couldn't save you the loss on Maida Langley's death claim, but if it's any consolation, you're in good company. Everybody concerned seems to have lost something. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Friends, when you've got a package of Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum with you, you're all set for refreshment and enjoyment at any time. At work, at home, in your car, wherever you are. Just slip a stick of delicious Wrigley Spearmint Gum in your mouth and keep on with what you're doing. See how refreshing that lively spearmint flavor tastes, how it cools your mouth and helps keep your throat moist. Enjoy the good chewing, too. It'll make the time pass more pleasantly for you. And remember, chewing Wrigley Spearmint Gum helps keep breath sweet and teeth clean. So it's a nice thing to have with you at all times. Get some next time you're at the store. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Sidney Marshall with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Howard McNear, Ben Wright, Jack Edwards, Bill Johnstone, Jack Moyles, and Virginia Gregg. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when from Hollywood, John Lund returns as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is the CBS Radio Network.